Next animation, we're going to do the full walking cycle. So what I've done in Google is just type in walking cycle, and I'm looking at the various cycles that are on the screen here, and you'll notice that all of them have that up and down motion that we've talked about in terms of the position of the head and shoulders as the legs move. So I like using this one here, but you could try out some of these other ones. This one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 frames for one cycle. So I'm going to choose that one, and we'll view that image, and I'll just save that image somewhere on my computer. So I'll just put it on the desktop for now, and I'm going to call that walk cycle so that I can find it. And then I've already got a new file started in Flash, and we'll have to make our symbol for the walker. And we'll call this walker. I'm going to take and bring in that walking cycle. So we'll go File, Import to the stage while I'm in my symbol here. And we'll put that on one layer of the symbol. And I'll position it so that the first person is over top of the crosshair. And I'm going to make a new layer here, and I'm going to trace that first symbol. Now, I know that there's 9 positions that I need to copy, so I'm going to, for the original layer, I'm going to put 9 frames on the timeline, so F5 to do that. And we got my first keyframe up here on my tracing layer, so we'll call that our trace, just so that we can keep stuff straight here. And like I did with the bird, I'll do it in a different color so that I can see it from the black line. So maybe this time we'll go brown. And we'll zoom in a little bit here so we can actually see that. So there he is over top of the crosshair. And I will be super careful here, but careful enough so that you can get the position of the arms and the legs. And you can take more time when you're doing yours. You just don't want to sit here while I'm trying to get this all done here. Now, key here is that foot is in contact with the ground. And we'll need to use our onion skin so that all other feet sort of contact the ground at the same level. We don't want him drifting up and down because we'll see that as the animation runs. Now, I didn't make him fat enough here, but I'm sure that'll be fine. Okay, and notice how the further arm and leg are shadowed, so we'll just fill those in for now, just so that we get that sense that they're shadowed. Now it's not filling in, so we'll close our gaps here. Alright, so there's the first one. So keyframe, F6, and we're going to draw the next position. Now I don't want that one at all, so I'm just going to delete it. And I need to get my arrow and move it so that the next guy is over top of the crosshair. And I need to make sure that the feet are touching the ground at the same level. So we'll turn on the onion skin. Now I can see that that foot's a little bit higher than that foot that was touching the ground. So we'll just bring it up just, oops, wrong direction, bring it down just a little bit. There we go. Right about there, and then turn off the onion skin again. And I'll, making sure I'm on that trace layer, we'll trace him again. Okay, so the head's a little bit lower this time. And we're getting close to finishing this guy. Oops, I'm going to command set that. I want, it's pretty important that the feet are accurate. And again, we'll fill in for the shadow side. And I'm just going to hide that layer for a second just so you can see what's going on here. So the big change here is that he's dropped a little bit and that knee is starting to come up. Alright, so another keyframe, F6. And we'll turn on our trace again. Now I'm in the third one, so I don't need that copy of the second, so I'm going to delete that. Get my arrow, move it over a little bit again, and get that third guy over top of the crosshair. Okay, onion skin to make sure he's at the right level. Looks pretty good. And we'll trace him again. Alright, oops, I was on the wrong layer. So I can see here that that arm has swung back a little bit. The front, the arm that's closest to us. That back leg is a little bit obscured by the front leg, so there's a little bit of overlap happening here. And we'll fill in our shadow side. Now we don't even see the shadowed arm right now. And let's just check that. So we'll hide that background layer and we'll scrub again. So you can see how it's starting to look pretty natural. Okay, another keyframe on my trace layer. Bring back that. And we'll delete that copy. Move it over. And make sure that the feet are lining up still. So he's a little bit high. Just trying to nudge him into place there. And then turn off that onion skin and making sure that I'm on the trace layer. Okay, when you're moving it around, it's automatically going to jump down to the layer with the original on it. So you got to make sure that you're going back up to the trace layer. So now that knee that's closest to us has come way up. And this looks like it would be the highest point because that far leg is fully extended. And we don't need to understand fully what's going on here, but somebody has taken the time to analyze the key positions of arms and legs in a walking cycle. And that's kind of what we need here. Okay, and filling in those shadow sides. It just helps us keep it straight for now. And continuing on here, so another keyframe, F6, delete that copy, move them over. We're getting pretty close here. And check the position, size up a little high again. Turn off the onion skin, make sure we're on the trace layer. Now if you feel like you're getting this, feel free to fast forward until I've got all 9 frames copied here. I'm probably not going to say too much for the next little bit as I finish this out here. So hopefully you've got the steps. You're making a keyframe, you're deleting the previous version and completely redrawing him each time because the hands, legs, and shoulders and head will all be in a different position for each keyframe in the animation. Oops, that did not go well. Again. If you remember from the lesson, we call this scoping. Anytime we're tracing, we're scoping over top of something else. Okay, another keyframe. F6. Delete that copy. Oops, what did I do there? I think I hit F5. There we go. Delete that copy. Move it over. Check the position. Turn off that onion skin and drawing on the trace layer. Oops, kind of got a little muscular there. Now when you're looking for your walking cycle, there's some pretty cool ones out there. There's one that's a sneak, where he kind of sneaks across the stage, which is pretty fun. People have done that in the past. So if you don't want to do exactly what I'm doing, you can find something else there. There's running and jumping. So F6 again. Delete that copy, move it over. Check its position. That's pretty good. And on the trace layer. Always over top of that crosshair. So the complicated part of this particular animation is getting the symbol made. The symbol is actually pretty detailed. And filling in that shadow. 2 more here to go, guys. So F6 again. Delete that. Move it over. And make sure that it's in the right spot. Pretty good. Back up to the trace layer and trace. Okay, fill in that shadow side. And the last one, finally, so F6. Delete that copy, move it over to the last one. And check the position of the feet, so it's up a little bit high there. So there, the toes are lining up now. Turn off the onion skin, and we'll finally be drawing the last of this symbol. I just got a little wonky with the head there, but just want to get this done for you guys. And this walking cycle will be designed so that this last position will loop around to that first position quite nicely. So it should look pretty good once we get it on the stage. And the last little bit here. And fill in our shadows. Okay, so I'm just going to hide that for a second and scrub across and see if I've missed anything. So that looks pretty good. So now that we've got that, we can get rid of that bottom layer. And just notice, I'm just going to point out again, I know I've been sort of emphasizing this, but each of the frames, the character is drawn over top of the crosshair. So that's really super important. Okay, so let's delete that layer. I'm going to click on it and trash. And now we'll go back out to scene 1. So there's the walker in our library. We'll put him on the stage. And we'll give him some time on the timeline. So let's do it 90 frames. So F5 to fill it in. And if I scrub that, he's going to walk quite nicely. So there's a couple of things that we can do here. Okay, let's just get him walking across the stage. So we'll start him out on the left side. And then we'll tween our time on the stage. And at the end, we'll have him finishing up on the right side. So let's see how that looks. So there he's walking across the stage. So that's one way that we can do it. I'm going to insert a new scene here, and I'll get him to stay in the middle, and then we'll get something to sort of scroll by him. So we'll insert a new scene, and we'll put him on the stage again, except this time we're leaving him in the middle. Now this would be good if, or better I guess, if his body was actually filled in, and you should probably do that in yours. But again, we'll give him some time on the timeline, so F5, and we'll get maybe a landscape scrolling behind him here. So I'm going to insert a new symbol, we'll call it our background. And it's just going to draw in green. Now this is going to be pretty simple. You can take your time with this. Just a bit of ground, some hills and whatnot. And I want this fairly long and wide. And then we'll just do a couple of stylized trees in the background here. Just to have something pass him as it goes by. It might be a bush or something like that. Fill it with a different green. Okay, so there we've got our background. We're going to put that on another layer that should be beneath him. And we'll bring that background to the stage. Now it should hang off the edge here. So we'll get that kind of starting out about there. And because we're keeping him in the middle, we'll get this moving behind him. So we're going to tween the background. We're not going to tween the character at all. So create a motion tween. Where do we want to be by the end here? Well, we want that to be over here. Now, that might be a little bit fast. We might have to insert some more frames here, but we'll just sort of see what that looks like. There's the first scene, and here's the second scene. So this is like what we did with the bird, where the bird stays in place, but the background moves. And we're going to insert one more scene here. And I'm going to put my walker in there again. And I'm just going to change my perspective on the walker. Don't forget that we can scale this guy, right? So I'm going to make him really large. So we'll zoom in here. Give him some time on the timeline. F5. We'll add another layer into the background, so I'll put that underneath. I'll bring that background layer again. And we'll tween that. So where do we want to be by the end? We want the end to be somewhere over here. Now again, I can see through him, so in yours, you know, go back and fill in with a lighter brown or whatever color you're using. But there's that one. So we're just going to see three scenes here. So our first walker, scrolling background, and then he's going to come closer to us. So we're just changing our perspective a little bit. And you could get him walking back the other way, just like we did with our other walker, so you can flip him around if you want to. He looks better smaller. Okay, so there's your challenge. So get him moving at least two ways, moving from left to right, and him staying in the center with the background scrolling behind him. That's your challenge for today.